Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for this lovely introduction. And it's my proud privilege, and I'm really happy being over here. And we all know that we've now come out of this, kind of COVID state and the lockdown and the quarantines, and world is opening up. And we want to feel absolutely just the way like we were before, and along with that comes in this exam. And most of the students have not been used to giving the offline exam for almost 2 years, over 2 years now. So I'm sure there's a lot of anxiety that is going on, a lot of thought which is going on inside. And I thought, this is a good time. And I think, the organization is doing a wonderful job. Careers 360 is doing a wonderful job of getting you to understand what this anxiety is all about. While it's completely normal to feel a bit nervous before any test, but since for 2 years that we've not given any offline test and we're all been on the online exam mode, some of us may be feeling this anxiety, and seems that this anxiety is probably debilitating us. What do I mean by that is racing thoughts that are going on inside us, our difficulty in concentrating, or there are feelings of dread, that can sometimes combine with some of the physical symptoms like excessive headache, a very fast heartbeat happening. Sometimes some of us get nauseous and just want to throw up, and you can't sit in one place. So it's the physical symptoms start coming in with this stress that keeps building us, and we start thinking of certain things, and it builds up inside us. Whether it's the exam, which is the 10th board which is there, or the 12th board, or the university exam, or even the grade exams. Test anxiety seems to have the power to derail us for many weeks together, and all this hard work that we put in sometimes just kind of clogs our minds, and we're not able to perform, or not able to do many things. So I'm sure all of us want to understand how to create better experiences before this exam, and how to deal with this anxiety. So I think the first thing that we need to work upon is just be prepared. Like everybody says, our parents are after us that sit down and study, you're not studying, or some of us feel that we need to sit down for long hours with our books, but still we're not able to concentrate the way we want to concentrate. So I would say that let's be prepared for this exam which is there. We've given exams right from childhood, haven't we? The time that our parents took us to the play school, I think we were made to perform. Or even before play school, when we are sitting in our homes and a guest comes in, and we were told as kids, एक पोएम तो रिसाइट कर दो, अरे ये तो कितनी अच्छे गाने गा लेती है, ये कितना अच्छा डांस कर लेता है. तो we've always been made to perform. It's kind of a testing situation. So being prepared, yes, this seems obvious, but it bears repeating. That means I have to repeatedly prepare for the exam, prepare for the subject that is there, so that I start feeling confident about the subject that I'm studying, and I feel that I'm prepared thoroughly because I am memorizing and I'm able to recollect whatever I'm memorizing. So it makes you feel more confident walking into the test area, sitting down on the chair, and so it's like being prepared for that. A lot of us sometimes keep hearing from our parents, from our school teachers, from our elders that get a good night's sleep. I remember telling my children also before the exam, come on, go and sleep. Do not keep on being awake till late hours, because that affects you. Now, a lot of kids start wondering, why are we being told to sleep well? And a lot of students, what they do is they do not sleep much, or the normal sleep that they're supposed to have before the exam. And that disrupts our attention span, that disrupts our performance, and we are then start getting exam anxiety. uh, so it's like what we say is cramming is never the answer. You don't need to cram for your exam. You don't need to get onto that rote memory all the time, yeah, and sitting all night so that you can exacerbate your nerves. It actually creates a lot of problems, which is a physical symptoms start appearing. And having that adequate rest, even for 7 to 8 hours, or probably even more, is going to be more beneficial. And you're able to perform better. You're able to come out with your answers much better if you sleep better. And the other thing is, we also keep hearing about eating better. Eat well. A lot of us focus on eating for a lot of carbohydrates. Now, carbohydrates, actually what happens is that slows us somewhere or the other. We need to have a good nutritious meal. And also sometimes in between, snack up sometimes, maybe with some healthy stuff, which is fruit, or some healthy snack together, which have, these foods or the fruits have steady stream of nutrients, which is very important, rather than a very sugar high rush, having a aerated drink. That aerated drink can actually give you a sugar rush suddenly. Or you want to have a sweet, which you're craving for the sweet, it gives you a sugar rush, but it also slows down somewhere or the other. So it's important to connect with your sleeping patterns, with your eating patterns. And also another area, that is having a good attitude, which is a positive mental attitude, especially for yourself and for the forthcoming exam. Bring a, kind of a picture of your happy place, or come up with some morale boosting things. I remember when I was a kid, and before sleeping, we were all brothers, sisters were told that before sleeping, acha Gayatri mantra bol ke so. सुबह उठो तो पहले सब बड़े जितने घर में उनको प्रणाम करो. You are given some mantras to do, and I feel that those are morale boosting mantras. And the biggest mantra that you can give yourself is, I can do this, I am capable, I will be able to do it, instead of, oh my God, I will not be able to do it, I can't do it, it's not possible for me to do it. You need to tell yourself that I worked hard and I deserve this and I can do this. Look at yourself and tell yourself this, and recite these little mantras to yourself, even before even before the exam and a night before. This will help you actually deal with a lot of examination anxiety. I think this is something that, to begin with, I would say that I feel there are some more techniques that one should be using, because once you use these techniques, you'll feel much better. Think about, when you feel anxious, think about the nature of your fears. What are these fears all about? And do they come up with an answer? Do you have some answer to the fear? So a lot of us have some realistic fears, and there are many imaginary fears for the exam that we are going to give. The realistic fear is that I'm not ready for this test. When you get this thought, I'm not ready for this test, I think how you need to address it: work on your time management and perhaps your perfectionism. That means you're looking for those answers which you want to be the perfect answer for yourself. But this is a realistic fear, and all of us have that fear. The second fear that you have is probably, what if I fail in this exam? I might have to repeat the year. Or what if I don't get good marks? What if what if my friend gets better than me? What if I am not able to get the right marks? What will my parents say to me? So whenever there is a situation when you start thinking of what if, it's a very imaginary situation. It's not real. I am only putting myself into that fearful situation and starting to think of that fear which doesn't exist. So talk to yourself, that this is unrealistic, and you're building it up in your system. So your family, your classmates, your teachers start, sometimes this thought comes to you that your family, your friends or your classmates or your teachers will think that you're not very bright. That's a very unrealistic, unfounded fear, And you may also start getting a fear that I used to think I was smart, but now I'm no longer one. Almost all of us experience this kind of a doubt, and it's perfectly normal. Don't put yourself into more pressure. Don't put yourself into pressure where there's going to be added anxiety situations. Don't do that for yourself now. We have to let go of that perfectionism that is coming in our minds. So there are many things that you can do before the exam. Is put things in perspective. When I say put things in perspective, what do I mean? Remind yourself that your exam is important, but your entire future doesn't depend on this exam, right? It also might be helpful to tell yourself that regardless of your performance, however you perform, you will not be diagnosed with some kind of a problem, at the end of that you have this problem. So put things in perspective, in the right perspective. Remind yourself that your entire future does not depend on this exam. Remind yourself of the past successes. There are many successes that you've had earlier. It's easy to lose perspective, especially when you get anxious about the forthcoming exam. When you find that you're no longer probably not standing second in class or first in class or third in class, you have to tell yourself and remind yourself that intellectually that you are very well aware and you're understanding that you're competing against many other bright students, but you may also remind yourself that you are capable, you have done it before, and you can still do it. Bring to your mind your past successes in many which ways, which will remind you that you can do it and you will be successful. Don't give the test or the exam the power to define you. An exam won't tell you whether you are the most brilliant or least brilliant. The exam does not define us. The people who are on positions, nobody goes and asks them what your exam results were, right? So your performance on an exam mostly depends on how effectively you studied for that exam prior to that, the quality of your prior education or your test taking strategies. It's basically testing those areas. So let's not give the test the power to define you. I would say eat well, sleep well, and do not study for very many long hours. If we study for too many long hours, our brain starts giving up. It's like the computer, if there are too many things happening on the computer, what happens? It just shuts down or it just slows down. So give yourself breaks. And in those breaks, you can do many things except go on the screen, because screen can actually take you away from your concentration. Screen has the powerful ability to put you onto a pleasure mode rather than a serious concentrated mode. So let's try not to be too much on the screen. Also, it's not essential for you to sit down for many, many hours in front of the book and not move. I think do a bit of exercise, do some mindful exercises. That's going to be really, really helpful. And don't try and do too much of rote memory, too much of cramming, because we tend to forget what we are cramming up with. Focus on what you've studied and just make those repetitive attempts at memorizing those or doing some question answers. That will also help you understand how much you've already memorized. That's what you can do. You give yourself practice tests, I think we're all used to making too many timetables and we expect way too much from ourselves. We talk ourselves into it that, no, we'll be able to do this much. I should add on. And then we feel right at that time, our anxiety goes down. But as soon as we see that we are not able to do it, our anxiety again rises up. So let's understand, let's plan our revision, set aside plenty of time for revision. Don't do new stuff that time, sort through your notes, or any kinds of assignments that you've done. Focus on any essential material, actively use your notes and restructure yourself to condense them, to memorize, to understand. Plan how you're going to write your exam, plan your answer outlines. Those are very important areas to understand. Don't sit reading for long periods of time, because the more you sit for long periods of time, it quickly becomes very, very monotonous and boring, and your concentration can easily get disrupted, and there is no harm in asking for help or talking to someone, which can be your maybe a parent, or maybe an older sibling, or a friend, or anybody who's elder than you. Just talking that I'm feeling like this. I think it's always nice to talk to someone. Think about questions that you might expect to find in your exam, and don't start comparing yourself with the others. We all have that habit, asking our friend, acha kitna pad liya, and that person will say something, and then you say, oh my god, he or she done so much, I haven't done so much. No need to make any comparisons. Focus on what you are doing, and you are able to do well. So I think I would just add on to what I've been saying from the beginning is, revise when you're feeling alert. Make sure you take time after doing revision, to wind down. It's important to wind down also. Try not to go straight to bed without winding down. That means you studied, don't immediately go to bed, because you're all the time thinking then. You have to have a eating and sleeping pattern. You need to take proper breaks, because the exams are close, it's not very far away. Divide your days into certain periods of time when you're going to focus on studying and revising yourself. Keep up with your other activities. Try to give a balance between study and some pleasure or leisure activities. You go for a walk, you go for cycling, you are doing any yoga. Just keep doing those. Get support of family, friends, and your anybody who's there close to you. Try to be calm. Do some deep breathing exercises, because they are very, very helpful. You can find your enjoyment, and even after you've studied, you can go for your swim, you can go for jogging, you can go play football, whatever that makes you feel better. But you have to relax. Only then you will be able to do justice to whatever you're studying. By creating panic, it's going to create more problems. Make yourself comfortable. If you need to go and use the restroom, go and use the restroom before the exam starts. Adjust your clothing, take a few deep breaths, try to ease the tension you're feeling. Sit with your eyes closed for some time. Open your exam paper. Remember that most of us feel tense and anxious at that point when the paper is getting distributed. It's absolutely natural. Take time to read through all the instructions of the paper. Take yourself enough time. Plan your answers. Plan your answers, and don't set into yourself a panic mode, because the more you get panicky, you won't be able to concentrate. Always have a water bottle with yourself. You can take a sip of water, because that will calm you down. Do your best to ignore everyone else who's sitting close to you, because if you start looking at them, if they're writing the paper, you might get more anxious. So don't look at those. Just focus on your paper and focus on the question. And if not the first question, and you have the answer right away for the fifth question, label those answers properly and start answering those questions. So you'll be feeling more confident once you go through it. We should not mess up with our sleep pattern, because our sleep is actually helping us recoup up with the energy, because our body and mind needs that energy. We need to be the muscle tension also needs to be relaxed. So it's important to sleep and rest. So resting is what is more important. I would say that 7 to 8 hours of sleep is very, very important. every day.
Good.
And even if you're giving 2 exams or 3 exams, I think you need to plan yourself much in advance, because you are aware that you're going to be writing these 2 exams. So you
Yes, ma'am.
plan yourself, and then you must sleep well, because that is very, very, that's the most advisable thing to do. Sometimes what happens that we get, we start getting attached to one particular thing in our life, and that is one kind of an exam or one kind of a competitive exam. I think we need to keep some options for ourselves open, that is it only the NEET that I want to give, or I can also have a second option, a third option, a fourth option. Keep your mind open to various other areas of a career, not necessarily only one career. Because what is possibly happening, that frustration is coming because you want to do it and it's not happening. It's absolutely perfectly normal for a person to go through something like this. There's plenty of scientific evidence to support this also. And the brain simply works better when it's relaxed. But when you start getting very edgy over it, or when you start overthinking and overanalyzing your own self, then your limbic brain or the emotional brain is like the router. It works for the incoming information that is happening, and that incoming information is passing to the unconscious mind, and that unconscious mind is the monkey mind in us, where we respond very reactively and unconsciously. But when we are calm and composed, our area of the brain, which is the hippocampus, the amygdala, they feed in sensory information into us, and thus the higher executive brain function starts allowing us to think and behave and be calm in a very rational manner. So I would suggest that have your plan in there, but do keep your options open apart from the NEET also. I know that you always probably wanted to do only NEET, but think of other options also. Maybe you'll start feeling much better. And that something that you're expecting from yourself, sometimes you're not able to come up to our expectations, and it's perfectly natural and normal to do that. So first of all, when you keep that daily schedule, I don't want too many hours together where you sit down in one place and study. I would say study for 30 minutes, give yourself a break of 3 to 5 minutes or maximum 7 minutes, walk around, have a glass of juice or maybe water, come back, sit down again, then again study for 30 to 40 minutes, and then again take a break of 5 to 7 minutes. That's how you need to sit down and study. Second, do not plan your day with only study. Add your day with study, some exercise, some pleasure activity, some leisure activity, and not just focus only on studies. And what is it that you're planning for yourself? Where are you seeing that? How many attempts do you want to give yourself for the NEET exam? That's why I'm saying think of some other options also. And
Okay, ma'am.
do speak to a mental health person or somebody who can help you deal with your own anxieties and your own overthinking and overanalyzing patterns. So everybody has different ways and different timings. Everybody studies differently, but mostly the brain is most active once you get up, and after some time, that early morning, the brain is the most active, right? That's why our schools are there early morning. We do most of the activities in the morning time. Our brain starts not that active. It becomes a little less active when the day progresses. So try and study more in the morning time. That's what usually it is said, that try and study more in the morning time. So we have to practice ourselves, don't keep sitting in one place. Move your body, roll your shoulders, stretch your legs, so that your body is a little more active. Open your eyes, give yourself a positive, very specific self-talk that you are sure you'll do well, you studied hard, you are doing the best you can, and then start working. And concentration will happen, not just only exam. but it'll be happening from the time that you started preparing for it. So that's why the techniques that I'm suggesting, those are very, very helpful. Actually, it helps you concentrate and build up all that for yourself. Banish all thoughts of how well or poorly you might do in the exam. We need to banish those thoughts. It's hard to guess accurately that what kind of score are you going to get? What is it that you're going to get as an exam result? Don't focus on that. Don't focus on the imaginary area. Be on the real. Be very mindful of yourself and just focus on that very time where the exam is there and when you're writing the exam. Don't keep on obsessing over the running out of time, that the clock is ticking, and you can check your time periodically. You can actually focus on that also, but avoid checking too frequently, because that will set a panic button inside you. uh, Approach when you're studying, approach your studying very, very seriously, but think of the test as a game, and just understand what I'm trying to say. Just think of the test as a game. Your goal is to collect as many points as you can, right, in the time available. Don't obsess about a particularly difficult question and you got stuck on that and you want to solve it, because then your time will go away. If you're unsure of the answer, guess and move on. Remind yourself that you can miss several questions and still do well. So focus on what you can do rather than what you are unable to do. Don't sit for too long hours, then your interest and motivation will go away, and you will allow all thoughts inside you to think about those thoughts, because that will take yourself away from the area where you're trying to concentrate, where you're trying to study. So when you're studying, be mindful of yourself and focus only on the book, and tell yourself that I am allowed to think of other things, but that time I will only do between 5 to 6 p.m. or any other time that you focus on. I'm allowed to think of other things, but not right now. I will do it at that time. And if still these things keep on persisting, what you can do is put down what is disturbing, or put down what comes in your mind on a piece of paper, fold that piece of paper and put it in a box next to you, and tell yourself that between 5 to 6 p.m., I'm allowed to think about what that thought was, but only between 5 to 6 p.m. Right now, I will not focus on what thought is coming to my head, right? And when do we lose motivation? We expect too much from ourselves. If there are 40 questions or 30 questions, what you can do is focus on the questions which you are able to perform on and do those. And then when you're done with those, focus on the other ones and give yourself more time to understand that question. At least when you know the few questions that you are able to do, write down those, answer those, feel confident that you can do it. And you'll realize slowly that even the questions which in the beginning you thought you were not able to do, you will be able to do. And even if you're not able to do, this is where you're practicing. This does not define you at all. When you're practicing, then you have enough time to see this answer and understand the logic behind that question. When there's a long question, from your practice tests, take out those long questions and tell yourself you will read them now before the exam date. Much before that, focus on the long questions. Do a lot of practice on that. You will be able to do it because you've studied so much. All these years, you've studied long question answers. You've been able to do it. Nothing will stop you. So just practice a bit. You will be able to do, and start putting down some bullet point answers, and you will be able to do it. A lot of us study with music on. A person like me cannot study if there's music or there's too much noise, but a lot of us can study even if there's music. It depends on what your study style is, what your learning style is. But sometimes music is very calming and very helpful, especially after you've done with your studies and you are in your leisure time or your pleasure time, you can listen to music. I have not added on something which is very important, is focus on having as less caffeine as possible. Now, caffeine is in tea, in coffee, in aerated drinks, try and focus on less caffeine, because that is also going to create problems for you. I'm sure all of us are waiting to write the exam to get good marks. I'm sure all of us want to do that, but it's all taking few steps towards that. So that means we have to prepare well, we have to revise well. So we have to do all of those activities to be able to get down to good marks. So don't focus on good marks, focus on your performance, on your preparation, on your revision. That's what is going to lead to good marks. Don't focus on the marks when you're writing the exam. That will make you more nervous. And when we are nervous test takers, we are prone to changing our correct answers to incorrect. And then we go back on checking our answers again and again. And that's a big loop we fall into, right? Banish all these such thoughts, because this will create more problems for you. Anyone who's doing 2 exams, like I answered previously also for somebody, I think, see what is it that you're looking at? What is your priority in life? Both the exams are priority? Very good. The syllabus would be similar for both of them? Not necessarily. So focus on the basics, which are there for grade 12, and then start focusing on the exam, which is the NEET exam at a later point. But try and keep time for both the exams, because you're focusing on both. And NEET is going to happen after your board, right? So what is board is before, so focus on the board and then the NEET. And don't get too confused with both of them and feel very pressurized. So I would ask this question to you. What is it that you want from yourself? You're putting in too much of pressure on your brain and on yourself and expecting a lot from yourself. If you've done 50% of the syllabus, revise that 50% very well. Do not add too much of new material. Focus on answering the question answers or any test papers, revision papers. Focus on that. Don't look at the good marks. Look at what you have in your hand, which is the 50% of the syllabus and maybe a little more. That is the important areas that you want to focus on. And just focus there, nowhere else. You will still achieve quite a bit because you've done that part. Don't focus on 100%, because this is not the time to focus on 100%. Yes, Prachi, that is, all kids are going through this. All people who are studying are going through this. My suggestion is, अब तो जो बीत गया हम उसके बारे में नहीं सोचेंगे. अब जो करना है उसके बारे में सोचेंगे. Whatever you're revising, write down. Your speed will come back to you because your hand functions will be there. When you're doing your test papers, write them down. Don't focus on your memory. Keep writing them down. Your speed will come. Your habit of writing will be there. And it will be there. You've written from childhood. It's just these 2 years. It cannot make us forget anything. Our speed will come back. Just focus on continuously doing the written part. Some of us might be aspiring to go to different countries. Our board exams results are very important in those countries. So focus on both the areas. And you can do it. It's not that. And the syllabus or the curriculum is almost similar, except a little add-ons on the other competitive exams. But you focus on both. Don't give up either or. My suggestion is you can't be sitting all through the day with your books.
Yes, ma'am.
Try and distribute the hours for various things. Like if your exam is for your board, then maybe 2 hours, 2.5 hours, then 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and then 2 and 2.5 hours. So you do it 6 hours or maybe 8 hours through the day of your waking hours. But give yourself breaks in between. It's very important.
Yes.
The break is most important, but focus on those hours of things. So it's something that you've made yourself understand the subconscious mind, you made yourself understand that you've already done so much. It's all opened up. You can still meet up with one of your study mates and sit down and study with them, because that's what is helpful for you. You could do that. That's somewhere that you feel confident. So I would suggest that both the online and the offline, maybe you could do that with your friends. You could sit down and study. It'll do you good. There are just a few things that I would like to tell the parents, that parents, you are used to children giving exams. Don't stress yourself and don't stress them up. जितनी पढ़ाई उन्होंने करनी थी उन्होंने कर ली है, थोड़ी और कर लेंगे. आप उनकी मदद करें. You need to just be around them for all the meals probably they want to have, or they want to take rest or something like that. But I think parents need to be a support system for the children, and children also are support system for the parents. But do not tell them, because you get frustrated when your child is not studying. I think we say things which are unnecessarily, which are futile, and that also takes away a lot of their calm mind in focusing a lot into anxious situations. So let's not say many things to children, many futile statements to them. Let's just be enjoying along with studying, and that's a support system. That's what I would say. And जो वो कर रहे हैं वो फिर भी करते रहेंगे, पढ़ेंगे, बनेंगे कुछ, वो कर सकते हैं. Have faith in yourself and have faith in your child. Both will do well. I would say parents need to be a little more patient. Just patient. Don't compare. It's easy to compare and feel that they need to compete with others. They don't need to compete with anyone. Right? If you are patient and if you're calm, your child will definitely do well. And doing well is very comparative, कि हर कोई कुछ ना कुछ करता है, वो भी करेंगे, आपके बच्चे भी अच्छा ही करेंगे.